All right. Thank you all for being here for this month's Focus On program. This month, we're focusing on the SLIM program at Emporia State University. I'm so grateful to be joined by Dr. Amanda Hovious. She's an assistant professor, I do believe, with the SLIM
Yes.
program since I think you said 2022. Can you go ahead and give us a little introduction? And we love to start by hearing about people's path to librarian or through librarianship.
So I'm an assistant professor at SLIM and I started in 2022. This is actually my second career. So my first career was librarian and then second career librarian educator. So it's been more than 25 years in the library field. I went to UW Milwaukee for library school and which in fact I have a connection to Dean Zhang, who also worked there for a time. So that's where I went to library school. I had gone for my undergraduate to DePaul University, which is in Chicago. And also Dan is an alumni.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Lincoln Park. I was theater school, so it's really I don't see a lot of DePaul grads around here.
Yeah, me
Anyways,
neither. Yeah, I was music. DePaul is known for music and theater.
that's right.
So
We graduated together. Actually, we had a joint graduation downtown between the two programs.
yeah. So my first job out of during library school, I actually interned the whole time. I had never worked in the library. My first job out of college was customer service, and it was awful. It was awful. And I was thinking about what do I want to do. My mom actually recommended library school, and that was very good advice. I ended up going and interning at UW Parkside, which is a smaller 4-year in Kenosha, Wisconsin, so about 45 minutes south of Milwaukee. And so I learned a lot. I was really mentored through library school. So all the coursework I did, they helped me make sense of it, in practice. And so I felt really prepared. But of course, with library school, it's all depends on the job market when you graduate. And when I graduated, it was not a great job market. So I applied for everything. My husband was in the Chicago area working. So he was commuting from Wisconsin during that time. So we moved back to Chicago area. I started applying. I ended up at Palatine Public Library, which is a suburb of Chicago, pretty large suburb. And that was, so I landed in public libraries and I did programming and reference and really enjoyed that, but also got burned out. And so about 8 years into that, I transferred over back to academic libraries and worked at a community college, which is McHenry County College in McHenry County, Illinois, and did reference and instruction and really enjoyed teaching. That was really where I developed that love of teaching and also discovered blended librarianship, which is this combination of Stephen Bell and John Shank and Bell were the ones who introduced or proposed this idea of blended librarianship back in it was more than 20 years ago now. And it was really this combination of instructional design skills with the library skills, the traditional library skills. And I looked at that, I read the article, and was like, that's me. That's what I want to do. And so I ended up getting a second master's in instructional design and technology. And that kind of led me to want to get my PhD. Now, I do come from a long line of PhDs in my family. My mom was a professor, so there's that that in the family as well. And that's how I ended up here in Emporia. I graduated from University of North Texas for my PhD in information science. I think December 2021, and then was on looking for jobs and ended up in Emporia. And my mentor, actually, Brian O'Connor, he just actually retired from University of North Texas. He was my dissertation chair. He worked at Emporia State for quite a while. So he had a connection here, and that kind of helped me connect to it as well. And I've really enjoyed being here ever since. So I am in my second career.
Excellent. So normally we start, if we're talking to a public library, we talk about the city or the community. And so for this, we thought maybe you would maybe tell us just a little bit about your student population that you serve. And it's a pretty diverse population, I'm sure.
It is. So we are 100% online. Now, Dan is an alumni as well, and he was um, when I started at Slim, we were already 100% online asynchronous program. So I guess prior to that, there were cohorts, and they were kind of did you meet on weekends a couple of times a semester?
Yeah, intensive weekends. Usually, it's most of the core courses you would do it twice, and usually you'd be in two classes, so you might have like 4 intensive weekends a semester.
Okay, so COVID changed everything. And I guess post-COVID, we moved in the direction of what most library schools now are, which is online programs. And so when I came on, there are asynchronous online, but we do as much as we can with synchronous sessions that are optional and help, making connections with students. But we have and this is based on my own experience in library school, and the student body at that time, it's changed in a good way. We're much more diverse now. We're seeing a lot more younger students coming in. Now, I was a first career librarian, but most of the students that I went to school with were second career. So they were mid-career. It was a mid-career change for them. We still see that, but we also are having a lot more students coming in directly out of their undergraduate programs into library school, some without experience, some with, who've been working in libraries for a while. We also have more diversity in terms of ethnicity, race. We're just seeing a larger body, and we have students all over the country, I would say, from sea to shining sea. We have students from Portland to Boston, and everywhere in between. We have tribal nation students. We have all kinds of students, and it's really great. I teach regularly, I teach the foundations course, which is the first course you take when you enter the program. So I get to see all the new bright-eyed students, and I really enjoy that. And it's fun to watch them grow. So I get to see a new group of students come in through every semester who are new to the program. And that's a lot of fun. Um, so I don't know if you have
Well,
anything else you.
I just wanted to say, I read a lot about libraries. We probably all do. And a lot of times they'll talk about the profession, about how we're just not a very super diverse profession.
Mhm.
And what it takes to change that is to bring new people and new voices
Right.
in. So it's good to hear that you're actually witnessing that, because to me that means that as we look down the road, there's a good opportunity that we might see just more change. We are a very strong white female group, and I
Yes,
say
we
that
are.
as a white male.
Uh-huh.
So, anyways, that's encouraging
Yeah,
to
and
hear.
I think what it is, it's just very slow process, because as we get more diversity in the field, then kids get to see somebody who looks like them in the
Right.
library, and then they say, hey, I could be a librarian. So
Hmm.
I think we're kind of in that shift right now, or I think we're
Yeah.
moving in the direction of having a more diverse profession. And there's so much more you can do with the MLS degree today than even 20 years ago.
Hmm.
So it's really exploded, and there's a lot of jobs that you can have that aren't librarian. So it's a diverse degree as well.
That's a really good point. I would just mention too, it was interesting you talking about the experience or just coming straight out of undergrad. And what I noticed at my time was it seemed like someone like me who hadn't really been in libraries but had supported libraries for a good amount of time. And this was also kind of a second thing for me. I thought I felt the program maybe seemed a little bit easier to get through because I could draw off of those experiences more. Is that something that you would think is you see with people, that it maybe gives you an upper leg up if you've already had some experience with libraries?
Well, certainly the language of the profession if you've worked in a library for for a while. So it does make it easier to kind of transition into it. I do always recommend to every student, even if you don't have to have experience coming in, but you should have experience leaving, which means to do an internship, a practicum, even a part-time or volunteer work in the library gives you that experience and that sort of immersion into the profession. And also, if some students just know what they want to do when they enter, and then they're doing something entirely different when they exit. So keeping an open mind that there's so much out there, and you know, if you think you want to be a public librarian, you might discover the academic libraries are pretty awesome. That's what I did.
I think
That's
that's
what
a
happened to me.
really, I think that's a really good point, to use that time, because I don't have any like academic experience, and so that makes it very difficult for me to sell myself as like a possible academic candidate, I think. Whereas if you maybe had that practicum experience, that kind of gives you that opportunity to show, no, I've done it a little bit. With that,
Yeah, there's a lot of connection between public library work and academic library work that if you've never done either, you don't know. But if you've done both, you see the connections. And I always say, if you are a public librarian and interested in sort of going into academic work, the best place to start is a community college. There is a sort of this, that's where I worked, as a community college. There is a lot of the work you do in a public library. I worked with a lot of students working as a public librarian who didn't want to go to their college library because they didn't like it. So they were more comfortable in the public library. So it was seeing a lot of those same students
mhm,
and then transitioning into that. Now, a research institution is a little bit different. It's a different student body and different types of students. So, but I think if you want to make that transition, I would start out in a small college or a community college.
that's great. So let's talk. We have a new image up, and it's illustrating that, well, to me, that the program isn't just about the MLS, but you also offer the PhD. Can you just tell us a little bit about, like, if people didn't know, like, what does library school look like, either in the master's or the doctorate level?
Well, both programs are online fully. For the MLS degree, I mean, a lot that's been going on in a lot of library schools for a long time, but the doctorate at a for as an online program is more challenging because the amount of research, there's a lot more to a doctoral program than the MLS program. But we do get a lot of, this is a student who, in on the picture here, who just recently successfully defended her dissertation. So now she is officially a doctor herself. But a lot of our students are not necessarily wanting to be faculty like I am, but they already are maybe in the top of their field in a lot of academic librarians, especially because at at research institutions, having that PhD is a good thing. It's a good marker for your career. So this student is at Oklahoma State and is continuing along that path. But so we do get a lot of students who are sort of their career librarians who want to just move that next step. And so we do, if you're interested, I think the application opens up again in the fall for the next year. So we start a new cohort every other year. So 2026 will be the next year that the next cohort begins.
Nice. I remember when I finished up my master's, I was like, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought, it was going to be. Like that didn't completely take over my life. It's like, do I want, I would have never thought this, but, should I consider another master? Should I consider a doctorate? Now time wanes on, and then there was a pandemic, and it's like, no, I think I'm okay not doing that right now. But for those that, that haven't done it, and I see this online too. People are like, I'm 30 years old, and should I go back to library school? I'll be so old. And just from my background, I was like, I did it in my 40s. Like,
Mhm.
um, So
I think my oldest students are in their 60s. So and you can go at any age. There is no age limit on library school. It's from basically from 22 directly out of your undergraduate to somebody who's in the, at the very end of their career who want to sometimes just want to do the library school just to learn because of lifelong learning.
yeah. I just wanted to ask just to follow up just on kind of how it works these days. So there are no longer at my time, even if it was kind of virtual, there were still kind of cohorts across. So like you'd have like what the Seattle, is that one of them? They would have like a cohort, and there'd be like the Colorado cohort. So there was smaller classes. Like, how does it work with like your foundations now? Or are you just kind of getting people from all over the country, and it's just kind of limited by number of students?
Well, we have a cap of 25 students for the core courses.
Okay.
And we usually, especially in the fall and spring, we can easily get to that point. And then we have we have wonderful academic advisors. I'm sure you had great experience with that and when you were at SLIM, but they have actually tried to register students in the same time zone for each
Mm,
section. So if I'm teaching two sections, one section might be mostly central. And then I mean, it doesn't always work out well, but trying to get all the Eastern Standard Time
yeah,
in a section, and that actually helps a lot for group projects and things where students have to meet with each other.
for sure. Yeah. Dealing with time zones and online communications can really mess with your mind.
Yeah.
I know you're in a different time zone today. So I'm glad that we were able to meet each other at the right time. Let's go ahead and talk about some of your work, because it's interesting because you do research on public libraries, which a lot of us here kind of are more related to that. So
Mhm.
yeah, tell us what you're working on, and then anything else that we have time for as far as the work.
So it was about, I think last year, I was part of a statewide initiative called Arise, which stands for, it's a National Science Foundation funded project that's multi-institutional. So Kansas State, Wichita State, KU, they're all involved in this research, and it's multidisciplinary. So I was the only library person in there, but they're looking at how to improve the resilience of communities within the state of Kansas. And so when they put the call out for grants, they were specifically looking for things like data literacy was one of the areas, and I thought, oh well, let's do that. Data literacy is an emerging area of library science. It's kind of related to AI. It's related to research data. It's related to information literacy. So I was looking at how decided to look at data literacy as sort of just an everyday skill versus the kind of skill, a STEM skill for getting going into a STEM career, which is what the primary focus is now is on workforce, college and career readiness. I was looking at it as, can you, balance your checkbook, that kind of thing, basic data literacy. So I did a survey with public libraries across the state. We ended up having 50 survey participants, and then we did some interviews, and it was all over all the regional systems were represented in this, and really looking at what they're doing to support data literacy type programs. This could be cyber security, how to be internet safety. It could be financial literacy. It could be health literacy. What we found is that they're not doing a lot. And a lot of it's a lack of resources and a lack of actually training and the ability to support these. But what I also found during this time was that these libraries are doing a lot of things that they don't even recognize as critical infrastructure, critical to the quality of life of their community. And it was everything from just being a source of digital access, cyber infrastructure, which if you don't have that, what happens? I mean, that has a fallout or a ripple effect on other things in the community if there's no digital access, because a lot of the rural communities, the public library might be the only place you go can go to have internet access. So there's that. There's early literacy, which is very important. We found that adult literacy is one that's kind of not being addressed. It's a big problem across communities. And then areas that like just the trust that everyday people, they go in on their weekly routine. They go to the grocery store, they go to the library. The library staff know their community so well, and it's just that trust that's developed, and that alone is a critical infrastructure of a community. So that's what the research kind of emerged as, and the ability to we're working on teaching, and I'll be presenting at ALA next week on how to articulate the public value of a public library. So going beyond how much you save in your tax dollars, but looking at what is the value to the people who never use the library or who never intend to use the library. So that's really important. And so we're going to give some exercise on how there's a method called the ripple effect. So you start looking at what services you offer, and then how does that affect the person at the individual level, the community level, and then society level. So it's really just writing it all down and so that you can articulate that. So that is an area of research I've gotten into. I don't think there's really not a lot of research on rural libraries. They've been kind of forgotten, yet they make up like 80% of all public libraries are rural or small. So I really think that this is an important area of research, and I'll be continuing with that. I'm also looking at how youth services in rural libraries, and there was a sort of a lack of that in the libraries that we surveyed. So trying to figure out what's going on there and how we can improve that.
I put a link, the best one I could find, for I think it kind of would be it's for the
Yes,
Arise program, at
yes,
least
that
through
is the Arise
KU's
program.
link.
Yeah.
Okay. So if people were interested in learning a little bit from your research, is there anywhere you would direct them to? Like if they wanted to see what you're talking about, the youth services numbers or anything quite like that? Um,
So the article we put out an article, was published in Public Library Quarterly. I don't know, Dan, if you can find that and put the citation, the DOI link into the chat box. Okay, so that actually goes over the results of the study, and it includes it includes information about lack of services for youth, and that's just an area of need. So we went over what libraries are currently doing that are critical infrastructure and what they could be doing and how to go about doing that.
it sounds like very important work that I hope that some of our members at Neckles and across the state take a
Mhm.
look at, since it's all been wrapped up and they can just look at your results.
Yeah.
We only have a little bit of time left, but I wanted to, well, we could talk a little bit about the instruction design program, but I also wanted to leave plenty of time to talk about both your work on CULS,
Mhm.
and then also just kind of the broader Kansas Library Association community, and how you maybe are involved since you've become an adopted Kansan here in the last few years.
Well, I also have a family history with Kansas. My dad grew up in Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, my grandfather was born in Elbing, which is like outside of Wichita somewhere, like a little,
Oh,
it
okay.
was on a farm. So I do
Gotcha.
have connections,
Gotcha.
but quickly, the instructional design program, it's part of SLIM. Instructional design and technology is part of that blended librarianship I talked about
Mm.
earlier. It is the master's degree on its own, but we also have a concentration for MLS students who want to kind of dive into that. But it's now part of the SLIM. So if you're interested, you can go to the SLIM website and read about the program. It is, if you're an academic librarian, and you do instruction, that's a really good skill set to have. As far as CULS go, I'm currently the president of CULS. That'll be wrapped up at the next conference. That'll be handoff to the next person. But that's been really great, is I started when I moved here in 2022. I one of the first presentations I did was at KLA. So I started right away getting involved in KLA. And then I just I think somebody just recommended a librarian at ESU. She just asked me if I wanted to run for second vice president of CULS. It's like, sure, why not? And so I did. And then we had a vacancy, and I ended up kind of jumping from second to president. So I skipped the first. Um, so this year we did the CULS conference was held in Emporia. It was very successful. It was held at the library at Emporia State. Very nice, a nice turnout. And I got a lot of good feedback from presenters and people who went there. So if you do, it's a great, CULS is a great section to get involved in. There's a good networking among the academic librarians with CULS, but I'm also involved with the KLA Council because of the CULS presidency. So I attend those meetings, and there are changes afoot with KLA, which you all need to keep abreast of, which you'll read in the newsletter. And then the KLA conference, which is coming up, that's going to be held in Manhattan this year, and I do attend the meetings for the conference planning. So that's going to be a fun conference. So I do, if you have a chance, try to get to Manhattan this fall, because that'll be a fun conference.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just a change of scenery to go back there. And then you have obviously Manhattan Public Library and
Yeah.
the awesome Hale Library
Mhm.
to check out. So I think it will be really great to be in Manhattan this year. What's it like to be an academic? And I know as you said, you're a library educator, which is probably a little bit different than your peers in just academic libraries. But what's it like to be part of like a KLA organization and conference when I think it's probably bent more towards the public? Do you find that there's a track that people in academia find? Because I wonder about that with school librarians too. They're there, but it's I mean it's pretty public. And even though like I can say my presentation is going to be for everybody, it might not really be
It
as
is a
much.
topic of conversation with CULS, with our CULS meetings. One of the reasons why there's currently a separate CULS conference is so that there is that ability to get together just for academic libraries. And we've actually learned this with this conference, like this recent CULS, that the vendors like that too, because then the vendors get a more like one-on-one conversations with academic library folks, and then they get a better sense of what the needs are. So there is definitely, the vendors enjoy that as well. We do, I mean, I put in a proposal for KLA that's related to academic libraries this fall. So we're trying to bring more of that in there, and just get more participation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, it's like which has to come first. We want more academics to participate, but we have to have the content for them to feel like
Right.
it's for them. And so you really kind of just have to work towards that. I assume too it's somewhat difficult in academia because, and I know this happens across libraries, but I'm guessing siloing happens a lot. Where if I'm a K-State librarian, I'm probably not having a lot of opportunities to find out what my other folks, my colleagues, like at say Hayes, are
Yeah,
up to. Um, so that this is an opportunity to get that kind of that cross pollination.
for sure. I mean, there's of course ACRL, but not everybody is able to go to that.
Right. Well, I think we're pretty much wrapped up on our time. So, is there anything else that we didn't get to that people who are watching the recording, if they've made it this far, congratulations, or any of our participants should know about?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but we can put maybe contact information into the chat. I can put my
Yeah,
email in there if you'd like, if you have a
I
question that you didn't think about until late after the session.
That would be
So,
great. Thank you for
come
doing that.
on.
And so we'll leave that up for a moment. I just want to thank you all as we get here to the top of the hour for joining us this June. I know some of you are from public libraries, and that means you're in the heart of summer reading right now. So hopefully this is a nice break away from the summer programming to talk about library stuff. And I see the email address in there. So take a moment to copy that if you need to. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So thanks for participating today, everybody.